So overall, let's talk about News Nation in general, Donald Trump, even though he wasn't on stage yet again, and the contenders there. Who do you think were the ultimate debate winners and losers?
Well, one of the debate winners was News Nation. I thought they did a very good job. The moderators did a tremendous job of controlling the debate. There was a little bit of rambunctiousness, we'll call it, at times, but I think the questions were good. They were also somewhat different than what we had heard in previous debates, so kudos to them. I think Nikki Haley, clearly because she was being attacked, two-thirds of the night, established that she's now among the contenders to Trump, the one to beat. So I think she comes out a winner. And again, I thought Chris Christie, in a big way, really showed the kind of maverick independence that a lot of Americans, I think, kind of applaud. Whether they're with him or not politically, they like that in political leaders, and we see very little of that today.
We saw the herd really thin out from the last debates to now. There was only 4 people on the stage. Going into Iowa, we're less than 6 weeks away here. Do you think anyone else should drop out? Or do you think, if you made it this far, you might as well go to Iowa?
I love this question about dropping out. You told that to Ron DeSantis, who spent like a year and what is it, over $100 million already in trying to secure the nomination, to Nikki Haley, who's probably been thinking about this ever since she stepped into office as governor in South Carolina, to Vivek Ramaswamy, who come from nowhere, suddenly has this experience where people are listening to him on the presidential debate stage. In a perfect world, for those who would like to deny Donald Trump the nomination, they would all drop today in favor of Nikki Haley. He would be the obvious kind of congealing force. But short of that, unlikely as it is, we have, I think the die is cast here. I think we're looking at an inexorable march to the nomination by Donald Trump. Unfortunately for the contenders, the big court cases against the former president don't really begin in earnest until March. Everyone say, "Oh my gosh, when that happens, he could be in real trouble." Well, it's going to take a while for those court cases to begin and end, for those court cases to be resolved, and then of course there'll be appeals. Let's say the former president is accused and indicted on all fronts, in all court cases. And then you'll have the appeals that will go well beyond the presidential election. So I think it's wishful thinking that we're seeing anything other than a Trump inexorable march. The question is, with someone on that debate stage, in particular Nikki Haley, would she consider taking number 2, knowing that she would serve a lame duck president and be well positioned from day one in that administration to take over?
You brought up an interesting point earlier in that there's this schism in the Republican Party between establishment Republicans like Nikki Haley and MAGA Republicans like Donald Trump. So when you think about the future of the Republican Party, is it short-term MAGA and then long-term perhaps establishment if Nikki Haley was that VP position?
Well, that's a great question. There's been a struggle, a fight internally within the Republican Party. You see that in Congress with the Freedom Caucus. The Tea Party movement was another part of that. There's always going to be disagreement within the parties themselves. You can say that about Democrats. Liberal progressives versus more centrist, moderate Democrats. There's always going to be a debate and discussion. But something else that happened last night was interesting. Ron DeSantis went after Nikki Haley as kind of the tool of big donors and big dollars and corporate interests. That is telling because the Republican Party, and DeSantis actually has been pretty good at this, as some of the others have been as well. The Republican Party are trying to become the party of the working class all over again, of working Americans versus the party of big corporations. And I think DeSantis is trying to force Nikki Haley and others into the corner of big corporations, which today are becoming more and more unpopular in the American political conversation, regardless of the monies that they can bring to bear. We've certainly seen that chapter and verse with Republicans having to do with Disney, Coca-Cola, and others.
Do you think Ron DeSantis is really successful at doing that, at putting Nikki Haley in that corner?
Well, I think he tried to do that. and he's trying to do that. Uh, Unfortunately, just my 2 cents, Ron DeSantis had the greatest story going into this field, short of the former president. He had the Florida story, all sorts of incredible achievements he had brought as a leader, as a gutty leader, as someone against the grain, and he very early on kind of threw that overboard, I believe, in favor of being the ultimate culture war warrior. And I think when he went that way, he became less appealing to a broader base of voters. And I think that was the beginning of the slide that we now see him in Iowa and across the country.